Hi, I'll start with a quick word for the French visitors on this video, but if you don't want the French forward, go straight to the intro. Pour les gens qui regardent cette vidéo qui sont francophones, bienvenue. Donc normalement sur cette chaîne, je parle toujours en anglais, mais cette fois-ci, je vais faire un peu des traductions anglais-français. Donc malheureusement, la vidéo est un tout petit peu plus difficile à regarder pour vous parce que j'ai organisé tout ça par ordre alphabétique en anglais. Mais si vous voulez trouver la prononciation d'un mot spécifique, allez dans la description, vous voyez tous les mots et ensuite vous pouvez aller dans les chapitres, j'ai vraiment tout chapitré. Alors si vous vouliez juste voir le mot, bien les traductions sont dans la description, donc vous pouvez tout simplement voir ça. Mais si vous voulez entendre le mot dit et peut-être l'entendre dans une phrase, parfois je le mets dans une phrase, n'hésitez pas à aller dans les chapitres et à regarder le mot correspondant. Donc voilà, je sais que pour vous c'est dans le sens inverse parce que je fais les traductions vers le français, mais j'espère que si vous regardez cette vidéo et que vous êtes francophone, c'est quand même un peu intéressant et que ça vous aide un tout petit peu si jamais vous allez faire les courses à Londres ou à New York. Hi, welcome back to my channel La Fraise. This week, super random, but I've been asked and I thought, why not, to make a video about sewing words translated into French. So I'm thinking about you if you are currently living in a French-speaking country, or if you're gonna travel to a French-speaking country, then maybe those words could be useful for you. If you're going like small towns and they don't really speak English, these words are maybe going to help you to survive your fabric shopping. So I have categorized this in 3 different sections. So basically I'm just going to tell you the word in English, translate it into French, kind of like tell it, you know, as understandably as possible so you can repeat it and say it yourself. And if useful, I will try to put it in a sentence for you so you can also kind of see how you would use it. So if you have already bases in French, that is going to help you to put the words actually in a sentence. But I'm sure you could go in a store and just say cotton, cotton, and they would help you if you say it with a nice smile and say merci afterwards. So I have 3 different categories. 1, I have fabrics. 2, I have notions. And 3, I have all of the words you could find around pattern making and everything. Even though I assume if you have a pattern written in French, you might be able to use a translating software to just translate the words for you and make the instructions understandable in English. But I thought maybe you're going to a class or anything. In any case, I have put a few of the more technical all-round sewing terms in that 3rd category, so I hope this is helpful. I'm going to take my computer to read them along with you. And if you're a normal viewer, this is maybe a bit of a weird video, and I mean it's going to be a bit systematic and maybe boring, so this is more for the day you go on holidays in a French-speaking country and you're going to go fabric shopping. Come back to this video. Otherwise, I mean, if you just want to hear me babble, leave it on. I'm very happy for your support, obviously, but I understand if this is not the video you're most interested in and you want to click away. Like, I'm not upset. Don't worry, like, watch on me if it's interesting for you. I will put the translations on screen as you are watching the videos. Some of them are going a bit faster. If you need more time, don't hesitate to pause, to screenshot, to whatever you need. I kind of, you know, kept the rhythm going because otherwise this video was going to be so long. So don't hesitate to pause it if you need to. So fabric in French is tissu, and tissu is a masculine word. So un tissu, le tissu, des tissus, beaucoup de tissus, plein de tissus. That's fabric for you. Tissu. Canvas is canva. That's all that there is to that. The word I struggle to pronounce in English. Corduroy. 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 Corduroy is velours côtelé. So watch out because velours is actually velvet. So if you ask for velours, they might actually give you corduroy. So be careful. Velours côtelé means specifically corduroy. So the coat is the little bits like this that are in the velvet. So velours côtelé. Cotton is coton. That's easy. Coton. Denim, that was a tough one actually. I originally filmed and said stuff and then started doubting myself. So actually in French, denim, we say jean or jeans. So even in singular, we say the S if you do decide to pronounce it, but we kind of say both. So jean, jeans. And both are fine and both are correct. And pants in French are singular as well. So even if you are wearing a pair of jeans, you're wearing un jeans or
un jean. And the fabric, the material is also jean or jeans.
So double gauze is double gaze. So basically almost the same thing. Say double gauze in French, double gaze. And you there. Jersey also comes from English and we say jersey. It hurts to say it. Jersey.
A knit fabric, a knit garment, that's also one that I originally filmed, and then I had my textile class and I realized that I was about to say something wrong. So colloquially, you would say tissu as well for a knit, because tissu is really widely used for just fabric. But the thing is, a tissu, as I'm going to explain, is something that is woven, like the name tissu comes from the word woven in French. And so you actually can't say normally a tissu tricoté, which is what I would have naturally said, like, you know, a fabric that is knit. You can't say that. No, teacher was like, you get out of the class if you say that. So I am going to tell you the correct term, but just so you know, if you ever were to say tissu for fabric and then tricoté for knit, it would be totally fine. But the correct word is une maille, de la maille. And that is the correct word. And some people also use tricot. I personally don't use it as much. For me, a tricot is really something like knitted, like with knitting needles. But I know that some people use it also for something more like a jersey or anything. So, you know, you have on one hand your woven, which is tissu, and on the other end, the knit, which is maille.
Linen is lin. So that's one of the more difficult sounds we have in French because it's a nasal sound, so try to send it a little bit up your nose. Lin. Mèche is filet. Rayon is viscose. So watch out, because obviously you do have the word viscose in English, but we use viscose for both rayon and viscose. So when you want rayon, think of the word viscose and say it in French, viscose.
I just wanted to add that the word rayon exists in French, but it's honestly not so widely used, and many people really use only viscose. So just a small note that rayon does exist, but in my experience is barely used.
Ribbing is un bord-côte, so that literally means an edge, and then côte is exactly like I told you in the velours côtelé. The côte is this thing, and so bord-côte is literally an edge that has ribbing on it. So ribbing, bord-côte. Silk is soie, de la soie. So if you want to say, I'm looking for silk, please. Je cherche de la soie, s'il vous plaît. So velvet is velours. As I said, velours côtelé, that's corduroy, and velvet, normal velvet, is velours. Viscose is viscose. Wool is laine, de la laine. So for example, do you have any wool? Avez-vous de la laine? Woven is tissé. So as I said, if you want a woven fabric, you are looking for un tissu tissé. A yardage is métrage. So be careful, because yardage obviously comes from the word yard, but métrage comes from the word meter. And so therefore, it's not the same measures. Rapidement, un petit mot pour mes amis francophones qui regardent ceci. Si vous allez à l'étranger, faites attention. S'ils utilisent un yard, c'est une mesure qui est un peu plus petite qu'un mètre chaque fois. Donc vous ne pouvez pas juste prendre vos mesures au mètre et demander ça en yard, sinon vous n'allez pas avoir assez de métrage pour vos projets. Faites bien la conversion avant d'acheter votre tissu, et faites attention aussi parce que les tissus à l'étranger peuvent être en général un peu plus étroits que les tissus qu'on trouve principalement en France et en Belgique. And finally, a meter is un mètre. Est-ce que je pourrais avoir un mètre de coton, s'il vous plaît? J'aimerais 3 mètres de viscose pour ma robe. Merci. Okay, I'm going to keep things snappy, otherwise we'll never get through. Notions. So the first thing that's a little bit funny, sorry, I'm looking at my computer at the same time. The first thing that's funny with notion is that there's not really one word in French to say notion. I would say matériel de couture. Yeah, it's kind of like there's not really a word that's purely the equivalent of notion. So just a heads up. But so notions. Bias tape is un biais. Depending on the accent, you might hear un biais. Maybe you don't hear the difference, but so if you hear biais or biais, it's the same. It's bias tape. A button is un bouton. Chalk is craie, de la craie. Clips, the ones you use sometimes instead of your pins, they are pince. And watch out because the word pince is going to come back later on as well, and I'll make sure I mention it so that you don't get confused. A French curve is called un perroquet, so that literally means a parrot. I really struggled between parrot and pirate, so parrot, the bird one. And you can see it's called un perroquet because it looks kind of like a bird's head, if you see that. It's also sometimes called une règle courbe, which means a curved ruler. So the two options, un perroquet, une règle courbe. Hooks and eyes, so that's a bit of a tricky one. It seems that there are many options. I try to find the best ones for you. So if it's one that you're going to have at the top of the blouse, for example, at the top of your back, or just at the top of your skirt, at the top of the zipper, that's going to be un crochet et un œillet. Crochet et œillet. However, if it's hooks and eye at the back of a bra, the whole structure is going to be called une agrafe. And agrafe also means a staple, like in a stapler. So just to clarify that there's really the options, like if you're looking for bra making material, you're looking for agrafe de soutien-gorge. If you're looking for a single hook and eye, or even if it's a box, but they are all separate, you're looking for crochet et œillet. And that's kind of makes sense because hook is a crochet and eye is an œil, and œillet is a small eye, so crochet et œillet. Lace is dentelle, but watch out because if you're looking for shoelaces, then you're looking for lacet. So also just be careful when you translate it to not end up with shoelaces if you're looking for trimming, like lace trimming. A nappy pin is une épingle de nourrice. A needle is une aiguille. And for this in general, I didn't include all the different names because even in French-speaking countries, we tend to have the different type of needles written in English on the box, so I don't think you're going to have any issue with this. Notions, already mentioned, is matériel de couture. Pin, a pin is une épingle, and pins are des épingles. Pinking shears are ciseaux à cranter. A pin cushion is a porte-épingle, so that's literally a pin carrier, a porte-épingle. And there are many different spellings, like literally one word, two words, with an hyphen, no hyphen, the S at the end, no S, like literally everything's possible. So if you're shopping online, try a few of those options because it seems like everyone's using a bit of everything. A ribbon is ruban. A rotary cutter is un cutter rotatif. So cutter, you can see that it literally has been taken from English cutter, but then you pronounce it in French cutter, rotatif, that means that it rotates. That's rotary. A ruler is a règle, and if you're in Belgium, then it can also be une latte. Scissors are ciseaux, and if you're looking specifically for tailor's shears, it's going to be ciseaux de tailleur, or sometimes as well ciseaux de couturière, but more often ciseaux de tailleur. Snaps are boutons-pression. So it literally means a button that works with pressure. So it's like a pressure button in a sense. So bouton-pression. And sometimes people say only pression. But if you say bouton-pression, that's going to be more clear and more sure of what you're going to get. A spool is une bobine. Watch out because any spool is une bobine. So bobine is not only bobbin to make things nice and confusing. So spool, bobine. A tape measure is un mètre ruban, so you see the word for ribbon coming back, that's like a ribbon meter, so un mètre ruban. And thread is fil, so you do pronounce the L at the end, fil. For example, I'm looking for black thread, je cherche du fil noir, s'il vous plaît. A thimble is un dé à coudre. I've tried to look into the etymology of this because dé also means other things in French and apparently it has no link. So, dé à coudre. And velcro is velcro. Just say it in French. Finally, we have the zipper, and a zipper is une fermeture éclair or une tirette, depending on which country you are in, so you can try both. Okay, finally I have all the sewing general, like kind of like when you are using a pattern, when you are in the action of sewing vocabulary. I'm going to try to go quite quickly because that's my biggest list. A backstitch is a point arrière. Binding, we don't have a word just for binding. We do say finition au biais, so that means finishing with bias binding, but we don't say just binding, so there's no words just for that. Finition au biais. Bobbin, une canette or bobbin for some people, but a spool is a bobbin. So I'll make sure that on screen it's clear, because if I say it, I'm just mixing myself up. But bobbin is une canette, spool is bobbin. Nice and easy, isn't it? I'm just trying to help you if you go in a fabric store so you don't like mix everything up. A buttonhole is une boutonnière. Baste, to baste, is bâtir. A cuff is le poignet. So there's actually, like, and I literally looked in my patterns that I translated into French or my French speaking patterns, could not find any word that matches cuff. If you speak French and you do patterns in French, tell me if there's a word for cuff, but literally I could not find anything else than poignet, which is the word for wrist. So it's like the wrist of your garment. If there's another word, please let me know. I'll put it in the description if someone in the comments says something interesting, but yeah, cuff, poignet. The dart is une pince, and so that's the same thing as a clip that we saw beforehand. So watch out, because pince has several meanings. Yay! A dress form is un mannequin or un mannequin de couture, because if you just say mannequin, it also means like a model, like a top model. So that helps. If you need to make it super clear, say un mannequin de couture. The feed dogs are de griffes d'entraînement. And if you speak a bit of French, you might thinking, training clothes, what? It's not entraînement like training, it's entraînement like when you take something with you. Entraîner is what you are doing. So it's not entraînement like training, it's the other sense of entraînement, like you pick up something with, basically. It's little clothes that take your fabric with them. So griffes d'entraînement. That must be a hard word to pronounce if you're speaking English. Griffes. That's a very French. I think that's how we can like sort out the actual French speakers in the room, make them say griffes. A garment is un vêtement. To gather is français. This is also the word we use for our eyebrows. So if you do this, you are français les sourcils. So that's that word, but in the sense, and like that makes sense. Look, I'm creating little gathers there. But so if you gathering fabric, you are doing des fronces. Or the verb would be froncer le tissu. A gusset is un gousset, and to be honest, I had never heard that word in French, and when I looked it up, it was not clear if anyone uses this. I mean, that's clearly the right term, but it's not very widely used in French. Hand stitch is un point à la main, or if you want to use the verb, it would be coudre à la main. Hem is un ourlet. So if you want to say, can you hem my pants? Pouvez-vous faire l'ourlet de mon pantalon? The inseam is l'entrejambe. Entrejambe, that literally means between your legs. Be careful with that word because it can also mean the more literal version of between your legs. So maybe avoid using in ambiguous contexts. An iron is un fer à repasser, and to iron is repasser. You can say repasser au fer, but repasser is enough. So interfacing is entoilage thermocollant. I often just use thermocollant, but I have also heard people say only entoilage. So you can say both, you can say one. I personally say thermocollant. To knit is tricoter. We've already talked about this. A knot is un nœud. A pocket is une poche. So I want pockets in my dress is je veux des poches dans ma robe. A very useful sentence if you ask me. A pattern is a patron, and watch out because that's literally the same word as a boss. Un patron, that would be your boss at work, and also your sewing pattern. Patron. A pleat is un pli. which is literally the same word as like a fold, for example, pli. A quilt is une courte pointe. That's a bit of a fancy word. A ruffle is un volant. So a dress with ruffles would be une robe à volant. And that's going to be mostly the ruffles that are on your shoulders, maybe. Ruffles that are not too gathered. If they're very, very gathered, it's going to be froufrou. And your dress is going to become une robe à froufrou. A running stitch is un point droit. The seam allowance is the marge de couture or les valeurs de couture. A serger is une surjeteuse. A seam is une couture. So this one is a little bit tricky, I find, because couture is sewing, but a seam is literally une couture. You can, however, say, if they're gonna say like sew the seam, they're often going to say piquer à 1 cm, for example. So sew at 1 cm is going to be piquer à 1 cm or coudre à 1 cm. But so yeah, there's not really a word for seam that is not sewing, basically. Sewing the line, if you see what I mean. A seam ripper is a découd-vite or a découseur, depending on where you are. So a découseur literally means an unsewer, and a découd-vite is a unsew quick. So yeah, I personally use découd-vite. The selvage is la lisière. So for example, if you want to ask how wide the fabric is, you could ask, is the selvage at 114 or 150 centimeters? Est-ce que la lisière est à 1,15 m ou 1,50 m? The sewing machine is la machine à coudre. A top stitch is une surpiqûre, and two top stitch is surpiqué. So if you know a bit of French, you know that sur is above, and piqûre is what we use to say sew a line. So it's sew above, surpiqûre.
And I do realize I have made a jump and not explained something here. So actually in patterns instructions, they're either going to say coudre à 1 cm du bord du tissu. So that literally means sew at 1 cm seam allowance. Or they're going to say piquer. And piquer is the same verb that insects do to you. So when you get stung by an insect, you get une piqûre. The verb is piquer. And so often they're actually going to say in the instructions, piquer à 1 cm. So piquer, the result is going to be une piqûre, which is how you end up with une surpiqûre for a top stitch. Okay, I realized that was not super well explained. I hope that's better.
A yoke is an empiècement. So for example, in my shirt here, I have a back yoke, and that would be un empiècement dos. Yarn is, there's not really a word just for yarn, because for yarn, we would translate it as laine, which is the same word than for wool. But if you want to say yarn in the sense the thread, then you can say fil.
So if you had yarn that is not made of wool, you would say une pelote de coton, une pelote de soie, une pelote de cashmere. So pelote is the word for basically like a ball of yarn. So as you can't say laine for yarn directly, because laine is only wool specifically and not yarn, using, a ball of X is a way of explaining. Again, colloquially, people are kind of saying like laine synthétique, for example, but actually laine synthétique, again, in our textile class, if we say that, we get told off, because wool is not synthetics. Wool is wool, and if you have a yarn that is synthetic, then it's no longer wool. I hope that makes sense again, but that's a little explanation. Milo has given up on my explanation.
And finally, a zigzag stitch is a point zigzag. That's an easy one.
Elsa, merci so much for tipping me a coffee. I don't know if this video is going to be useful for you, but I hope you're going to enjoy future videos I make on my channel, and thank you so much for your support.
So I hope this was helpful. This felt a bit weird to just read French words to you. I hope that if you are going to go fabric shopping in a French-speaking country, you can pull out this video, and if you have some basis in French, I feel like this can be the little boost that's going to help you to go to the fabric store and order your fabric in French. If you have used this video to successfully go and buy fabric, please let me know. I would love to know that this actually has helped even one person. This would be great. And if you still have any questions, like ask them in the comments and I'll do my best to help you with French. I actually studied linguistics back in my days, so I really like talking about languages too, so it's no bother. I'm happy to chat with you about this. I'll leave you with my favorite fun fact. I think I've said it in a video I filmed recently as well, but I like to repeat it. French seams in French are called couture anglaise, which means English seams. And I do love when two languages can't agree on who's responsible for that seam. So that's really my fun fact. I really find it hilarious that no one wants to take responsibility for this seam apparently. I'll call it a Belgian seam, I'll adopt it, and I'll be happy to claim it for my own. As you know, I love my French seams. Okay, I'll stop talking, enough talking for today, but I hope this video was useful. If you have found it useful, please give me a like. If you just enjoyed listening to me speaking in French, give me a like. And subscribe if you want more content, not like this. This is something I'm going to do only now, but if you want to see me sew in general and see what I'm up to, I'm a student in costume making, so if you're interested in seeing what I do with that, please subscribe. Don't forget that you can make anything. Vous pouvez faire tout ce que vous avez envie de faire. It's a little bit less catchy in French, isn't it? It's fine. Don't forget that you can make anything, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!